Welcome back to the Dynasty Rewind channel. My name is Bob Van, and today we have a very special episode of the one-on-one series featuring our very own Michael Bauer. I kicked out the idea of just having him interview himself. I thought that would have been hilarious. But real quick, how are you doing tonight, Mike?
I'm good. How are you, Bob?
I'm doing well. I was, when you asked me to do this, I was pretty pumped. You asked me to come on a few months back, and ever since then, I like to think of you as a friend, somebody I respect in this industry, and I've really enjoyed our relationship as it's grown so far. What is a Dynasty Rewind? What made you start it? What brought about the name Dynasty Rewind? And let's just kick it off with that.
Yeah, so I guess we should go back to how I got started in the fantasy industry. I love
Sure.
Dynasty Fantasy Football. I just felt like I don't know, I felt like maybe I could contribute a little bit more. I started as a writer for Dynasty Nerds, like 90% of the rest of the fantasy football community. That's nothing against them. It's just you see a lot of people on Twitter, Dynasty Nerds contributors. So listen, it's great that Dynasty Nerds because a lot of people their start. You ask a lot of people, they're related to them and linked to them somehow. Um, I personally am not the best writer, which sucks because when I was growing up, I actually wanted to be a writer. I feel that I can verbalize things better than I could do so through the written word. So, started looking for people to do the podcast with. I'd asked my brother-in-law, and we were going to do it in person, kind of modeling how the Dynasty Nerds did it. Both big fans of that show at the time. Um, he kept dragging his feet, and he kind of didn't want to invest any money in buying equipment. So I said, "Well, if I'm going to pay for everything myself, that's no offense to him. He's frugal with his funds, and that's fine." I said, "Well, if I'm going to invest this, I'm just going to do it my own way." So I was just kind of scouring Twitter, looking for podcast hosts, and Garrett Price caught my eye. He was a fellow contributor at the Dynasty Nerds as well. He's now their third co-host. So you all know Garrett. You all love Garrett. If you follow and listen to the show, you know him. And then we kind of started planning it and whatnot. And fun fact, the Dynasty Rewind before that, because it was Garrett and I live in Pennsylvania, he lives in Ohio. This part of the country is called the Rust Belt. So before it was the Dynasty Rewind, it was the Rust Belt Dynasty Football Podcast. But he said, hey, went to college. I met this my friend of mine, Chevin. Said if I ever did another podcast, I would love to have him be involved, and that's how Chevin got involved. As far as the name of the podcast goes, we were just kind of throwing names back and forth. I am not good at coming up with names when I'm under pressure. If I'm randomly driving or sitting on the hopper, I'll come up with something great when I don't have time to or a chance to write anything down. I believe it was Chevin that actually came up with the idea for Dynasty Rewind, to be honest with you. I believe, don't hold me to that, but I'm about 90% certain that that was him. I could talk about the logo real quick too.
Yeah, man, have at
Like,
it.
so the logo that you guys are all familiar with, which is right back here, that's actually not our original logo. I'm actually gonna go get our original logo.
Edit this out, Bob.
This right here is the artwork for our original logo. It was drawn by a girl named Gretchen Gross. She is a local artist and a bartender for Lost Tavern Brewing in Hellertown, Pennsylvania. Find her on Instagram, The Twisted Plot Co. So this is a hand drawn the cassette, the original logo, which we do throw the original logo out sometimes. The thing that's missing, she did Photoshop for the lasers in the background and everything, and then on the cassette itself, she put Dynasty Rewind. So um, that was our original logo, and if anybody wants a print of it, I will gladly print some out and send it to you. I can even sign it for you if you like. I used to do that when people buy shirts from us. The reason we did not stick with that logo, I was a little busy and I wanted to get shirts made. To get that put on a shirt would have cost me 10 times more money. So I came back to her and I said, I want to get another logo done that's easier to put on a shirt, something big, something bold that catches people's eye. And I want it to be a limit of one, two, three, four colors, because once you get above four colors, it gets more expensive. So it was a financial decision to make that logo. However, it was a good one. The money I spent, we've profited off of that and put it back into the podcast. I don't take any money from the podcast. We have the Patreon, which Bob and I are going to do a show for that after this. Anytime I get our payout from the Patreon, I put it right back into the podcast account. So in my entire career, of doing fantasy football, be it writing, podcasting, I have profited a grand total of $5. That is my total profit. So I don't do this for money. I don't do it for fame. I do it because I love it. I love interacting with people. But podcasting is better for me. I don't like writing. So if I do it, I'm doing it begrudgingly. Let's just put that out there. That was kind of a long-winded answer, but you're going to get that with me because it's my turn.
That's fine. I mean, it was a bit of a loaded question, and you brought back a loaded answer. So I think it's pretty cool that you were able to, with the logo, kind of put a local twist on it. I think that's pretty cool. But and I mean, honestly, too, it's really built into this. I don't know, kind of like '80s dad vibe we kind of have going on with. We always joke about the New Balances and all that stuff, and all the high top socks and all that. So I mean, it kind of fits that whole '80s vibe. Like we have this background here, kind of that '80s grid neon vibe, so on and so forth. But so touching on now that we've advanced, we have on the show now currently we have you, we have Chev, we have Pork, and we have Nate. How did Pork and Nate kind of come into the mix? And then we'll get into the other team members after those guys kind of came to the mix.
So before you move on, you're talking about the local flavor. If you've ever
Sure.
received a shirt from me, a Dynasty Rewind shirt from me, which by the way is the same style, the same cut, the same brand that you would get from Viridian Global that we use now, that's all printed in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. So basically, the logo from Emmaus, Pennsylvania, um, the shirts from Bethlehem. If I would send you a sticker or anything, everything's pretty much as local as I could get it. And as far as how Porkman came about, so Chev was having some troubles for a while with work and everything like that. As you guys know, sometimes he can't make it. He lives in Arizona, so the time difference is detrimental to him as well. So
Substantial.
we wanted to have kind of a backup plan, to say the least. So Pork and I, we became friends through a fantasy league, and then I just reached out to him saying, "Would you be interested in doing some podcasting on the side? I have a microphone I could send you." He's somebody who I respect his decision, or I respect his opinions. I respect him. And basically what happened was I just invited him on one episode and he just kept showing up every week. So instead of three people, we became four. As far as Nate goes, Garrett was obviously offered, it was much more lucrative for him to stay with the Dynasty Nerds. And the offer that they gave him, I can't compete with. At the time, we were not monetized. We didn't have the Patreon. So we were paying to do the podcast essentially, which, if you think we're doing great, our Dynasty Owner sponsorship covers what we're recording with on right now, StreamYard, and our transistor, which distributes the podcast. So we profit off of our sponsorship. We clear $6 a month, which stays in the podcast account. I bought some boom arms for the Fantasy Expo off Amazon. I bought 4 boom arms so we could do a podcast at the expo. And that's what I use the podcast account for. So hope you don't mind me doing that, Bob. So Garrett left, and honestly, at that point in time, I was driving home from work in silence because I was really upset. Not so much about the podcast itself, but Garrett, I considered a very close personal friend, and I still do. He's a guy that I can reach out to on a spiritual level, and he just guides me through things. And the way he had a way to bring me back down to earth, and he still does. And I miss Garrett, I do. So I had actually, driving home from work, had decided to give it another couple weeks and see how I felt, and then I was going to pull the plug on the whole thing, and I was going to kind of do my own thing or do nothing. And I was scrolling through Twitter one day, and I saw somebody tweet out that he had written an article about Lamichael Pirine. So I clicked on it, and it was Nate Christian. And I read the article, and the article was fantastic. It was very well written. And my thought was, if he speaks as well as he writes, then we're good. So I just kind of reached out to him, just kind of and we'll, kind of like how I did with you, Bob, and we'll get to that a little bit later. I just said, hey, really dig the article, and we just talked. I said, you ever do any podcasting? We have an opening. I'm not promising you anything. Why don't you come on, see how you fit with the guys? So, um, the first podcast I had him on, I said, you could pick the guys we scout. We did all these main running back guys. He's picking like Pete Guerrero and stuff like that, guys that never even made the NFL. So he was going really deep. And I'll tell you what, I appreciated that. Had him on. Then 2 weeks later, like, because Garrett said, I'm going to work with you guys till the draft at least. And we said, we appreciate it. Um, 2 weeks later, I said, "Hey, listen, Gary can't make it. Do you wanna come back on again?" He came back, he killed it. I talked with Pork, I talked with Chev. I was like, "Listen, I think we should bring Nate on as a member of the team," and, we extended that to him. He was excited, we were excited, and this isn't a knock on Garrett. This is actually more of a pro Nate statement here. I feel like Nate's personality fits better with what we're doing now than if Garrett was here. Garrett is a perfect fit for the Dynasty nerds. And if Garrett said, "Hey, I want to come back," I would find a way to make it work with him, of course. But Nate is just a perfect fit, just like me, Chev, and Pork are. The four of us work great together. So I really appreciate and respect what we have going on.
For sure. No, when I first got in touch with you guys, I was, when you first reached out to me, I was like, honestly, I had seen your stuff. I hadn't seen a ton, but I went and checked out a pod, and I'm like, these dudes just chopping it up, having a great time, and you asked me to, come on in, and we'll touch on that in a little bit. But
To that point too, I just want to say, chopping it up, having a good time. I don't chop the audio up. Basically, what you hear is what happens if you've never caught us live. If there's work, overlays or whatever, or you live in the UK or China or who knows, you can't watch us live. Basically, what you see is what you get. I add the intro music, I trim a little stuff off the beginning, I make sure everyone's volume is good, and it goes right up into the cloud. So that's it. I don't do any editing. I just try to keep it smooth and natural. But I'm sorry, Bob. Go on.
No, no, you're good. Like I said, just that like buddies vibe that are also dishing out good content and good information that people need to know to win their leagues. I was a big fan of that. So like, it took me a bit because I wasn't really into the podcast realm yet. I was just writing over at Fantasy Six Pack. But so now that we've kind of got the main core established now with you four, the big four, what made you decide or what made you want to branch out into more team members, and how did you kind of start that process?
So we wanted to expand. We kind of wanted to just go for it, I guess you could say. Like you see what other guys are doing, like Destination Devi, they're friends of the show. They have a great business model. The same with the Dynasty Nerds and a lot of other podcasts as well. So it's like, well, we should throw our hat in the ring too. We were thinking about a website, and I know Patreon seems like a money grab, but the fact of the matter is we were going to do a Patreon anyway. So it just made sense to do everything there. And it's actually financially more feasible for us to do everything there because you don't pay for a Patreon. If we did a website, it's more work, it's more maintenance, and you have to pay for a domain name. So, I know that we're not here to make money a ton, but we're not here to lose money either. So I wanted to do IDP big time. We tried someone, didn't exactly work out. So Bob, I'll start with you. I kind of stalked you for a little bit for a while. I read your stuff. I liked what you were putting out. If you look at my IDP leagues, you could see that my teams have Bob's fingerprints all over them. And this is before I even asked him to do anything for us. So I kind of reached out. We talked back and forth. I sent you some equipment. I got you set up, and you've grown exponentially behind the microphone since then too. Sean, our intern, probably shouldn't even call him the intern anymore. He's been here
Right.
longer than other people. Sean is great. Sean was kind of like a super fan of the show, so we're like, hey, would you be interested in helping with some behind the scenes stuff? Sean does editing. If there's ever any articles that go up on the Patreon, he does that. He does a lot of stuff behind the scenes that is kind of boring to our listeners, but is really crucial to what we do. Maddie was one of those things where how I found Maddie is funny. I found him through Will Harris from Viridian Global. I wanted to get a shirt made because you all know of my disdain for Nate Gary. I wanted to cut Nate Gary's shirt. His main designer was busy, so he's like, I'm going to set you up with Maddie. Maddie made me a design in like 5 minutes. I paid him. And I just said, hey, would you be interested in doing some other work for us? We needed. He's like, yeah, man, whatever you want to do. And then he kept making stuff for us. And then I just invited him to be part of the team. I really thought he was just going to be a graphics guy, to be honest with you. But the more I got to know Maddie, I didn't know he was so good at being an analyst. I didn't know he was in a Devi. So he really contributes more than just graphics. Who else am I missing out here? Sorry, I'm just kind of
we
let's see.
got we got Jay Wick,
Oh, so Jaywick, we were looking for writers. Jaywick was recommended by who recommended Jaywick?
Jorge, was it?
Well, he wrote for Fantasy and Frames. I think it was Sean that recommended Jaywick.
Maybe.
Honest with you. But Jaywick's great. I love the stuff that he puts out. I love talking to Jaywick. Every time I hear his voice, I smile. I can't explain why, I just do. Let's see who else we got here. Sorry, I'm just
No worries. We got
listening. That's on
go
the
ahead.
show.
We got Kevin, who we just recently brought on.
Trying to go in order, but we're just going to go out of order. So Kevin, even though he's a Cowboys fan, Kevin is a great Devi analyst. His articles are fantastic. He pumped it out real quick too. Was super happy to have him. Super surprised that he agreed to join us because I know he does work for, I believe, Fantasy Pros, so obviously much bigger than us. We got Dan Rozier. Uh,
Yeah.
Dan is going to be doing some best ball stuff. He's going to do some DFS stuff for us. Great behind the mic, great voice. Love Dan. Love
Oh man.
See, and the thing is, what I was going for too is fit. I don't want to be a square peg round hole guy. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be one of the coaches that tries to force a player into a certain type of system that doesn't work. I want us to all grow together and I want us to all work together. And that's what's important too, because what you see as a final product, what you don't see behind the scenes is actually way more fun, to be honest with you. Patreon group chat is a lot of fun. I don't even have it muted.
Yeah, yeah. I'll say from day one, I was added back to the group chat in probably December, November ish, and like right away we're just talking trash about so and so's football team. I'm a Packers fan, Maddie's a Lions fan, and Chev's a Bears fan. So immediately we had friction right there where like, oh, your team's trash in the North, you can't even win a game and all this and that. So right away it was just like that instant chemistry of like being able to talk trash and just hang out and let it all loose was great. And everybody that you've added in the meantime, and I think the one you missed was Linda, and she's kind of come and gone on her way. She's got something else going on.
Sadly, yes, and I thought Linda was going to be the perfect addition. Linda and she'll be announcing what she's doing shortly, but she got an opportunity
Sure.
to do something more consistent. And hey, listen, I'm always going to be a Linda fan, a Linda supporter. So, of course, but that's kind of I feel like the people I bring in are almost an extension of me. I like people that are fun, people that try not to take this thing too seriously because this is not our full-time job. You know, I I'm an auto mechanic, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, so there are times where this has to take a back seat, and I don't feel bad about it either because again, I don't do this full time, and I love helping people. I really do. I love analyzing fantasy teams and talking trades and stuff like that. But there are times where other things just have to come first, or I just don't feel like it. I just, I don't.
Right. I mean, and that's fair enough. Having to balance, when I was working 50 hours a week, still trying to do content and, spend time with my wife and, hang out with my dogs and stuff like that,
Yeah.
keep stuff up around the house. It was a big management of, at sometimes this did have to take a back seat, or I just, like you said, just didn't feel like it. And it sucks because I do love doing this. I enjoy this a lot. I enjoy interacting with all of you, but there are times where it's just like mute, pause, I'll do it tomorrow, do it later, just take time to hang out.
And the way I see it too, Bob, is I try not to be too demanding as the host and CEO of the show because I know everybody has lives.
Yep.
The other thing I ask is if somebody says I'm going to do this by this time, just make sure it gets done for me. It's just one of those things too, where part of, if you're the host of a podcast and you want to expand, get people in that you trust, because there was a time where I was doing everything and it made me not want to do it anymore. It made me resent the podcast. And then when I would see that downloads aren't what I want them to be and views aren't what I want them to be, and I realize I'm doing all this work and I'm not getting anywhere and I'm not making any money off of it and I'm spending all this time, I could just be doing something else. So you have to find people that you trust and you want to work with too on a daily basis. So that's part of, finding the right people. Don't make rash decisions when it comes to building a brand either. I think, you could apply that to more than just podcasting. You run a business, you build a brand, whatever. Find the right people. Take your time.
Yep, absolutely. So now that we've kind of go through the whole process and kind of caught up on the history of Dynasty Rewind, I know you're really big on advocating people to start their own podcasts if they want to.
Go for it.
As what would be your biggest bit of advice? What would be, what did you wish you knew when you started a podcast yourself? What would be your, like I said, your 101 of podcast advice?
It's not as easy as it looks. Be ready for it. Be ready for the negativity. Be ready to learn and mostly practice. Don't just record and pump out an episode. Practice. Couple episodes, listen back. You're going to hate the sound of your own voice. Do a couple practice episodes. If you're working with somebody that you're not feeling it, move on. It's okay to say this isn't working. If you could do it in a relationship in real life, you could do it with a podcast host too. So, and I didn't ever have to do that, but just saying, some people I've heard, well, I don't like this guy. Well, then don't work with them anymore. It's that easy. But reach out. I'm always happy to help people. I'll tell you what I've learned along the way, and I'm not going to say that what I know is the be all end all, but I can show you how to do it cost effectively. I can show you how to do it, for as close to free as possible. What I will tell you is audio is crucial. Don't worry about video. Just take all that out of it. Worry about that later. Get good on the mic, get good audio because people will not listen to podcasts with bad audio. They just won't. You don't have to buy a setup like this. Like I'm using a Zoom ZDM1. It's an $80 mic. My boom arm was $70. My interface was $240 and my mic cable was $28. You don't need to spend that much. I'll help you out. Bob's setup, probably less than $100 for everything.
Not the camera, but the mic and everything for sure. Yeah.
Stuff that I sent you. I sent Bob used stuff that I had used on the podcast at one point in time, but it works. And Bob sounds great. So, you are going to have to invest some money though, but don't be one of those people that just talks into the microphone of your camera. Don't do that because what happens is you're sitting in a room like this, right? You're going on and that's great. What you don't realize is what's happening is you're talking louder than you think you need to. The microphone on your computer is picking up every little echo off of your wall because if you're doing that, you're probably in an untreated room. You're gonna have to treat your room. So I got Eagles flags up, right? With the Eagles flag here, I got a Rewind flag, I got another Eagles banner over there. Behind me is moving blankets. You can buy just 3mm moving blankets on Amazon. That's what I did. I stapled them right up to my wall and I put flags over it so it looks nicer. In the corner, Home Depot. That's what you put between your dishes when you move because corners create a lot of echo. People don't know that. Also, drywall creates more echo. It creates more echo than plaster because it's thinner, it's more hollow, obviously. So get your audio fixed first, please. All your listeners, fix your audio and don't get creaky chairs either.
Yeah, sorry. I meant to switch to the other office chair before we started this, but
Sorry, it just creaks. I figured I'd say
I know I hate it. I need to upgrade. Honestly, it's a terrible chair to begin with, but I've had it for years and I really like it. So,
that works.
but yeah, no, I think awesome advice. I think the other thing I would add personally, just sort of stuff I've seen because I don't have my own podcast or anything like this. I just contribute to this. I contribute on the YouTube channel, obviously, but my biggest note would be don't be the person that goes and buys all of the most expensive equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be the person that overinvests into something that you don't even know if you're going to like.
I agree.
Honestly, because I promise you're not going to get big overnight. Like it just doesn't happen. Sorry. And then two, if you end up just not liking it or not being willing to just ride out whatever wave it's going to be, if you do catch fire and become something, if you're not willing to fight that out and ride that wave, you're just going to be left with a bunch of expensive podcast equipment that you're going to sell for way less than you bought it for.
So a lot of people buy a Blue Yeti because everyone's like, "Oh, Yeti's good. Yeti's garbage. I'll find you something cheaper. I can find you a nice dynamic mic setup, brand new from Sweetwater that will give you better quality that you could slowly upgrade along the way." Or people want to buy a Shure SM7B because they watch the Destination Debbie YouTube channel and like, "Oh my God, what kind of microphone is Ray Garvin using?" Ray Garvin does like 1,000 podcasts a week, and he sounds great, and he has a great voice. He needs a Shure SM7B. You, as a beginning podcaster, do not need a Shure SM7B for two reasons. One, it's too expensive. And like Bob said, you don't know if you're going to be using it a lot. And two, you're probably going to use it wrong. I'll give you some microphone tips real quick. This is a dynamic broadcast style microphone. I like the broadcast style mics a little bit better, as opposed to what Bob is using. He's using a Behringer XM8500, which is a handheld dynamic microphone. You want to talk into the top. Always talk out of the corner of your mouth because it does not pick up as many plosives like P's, B's, and S's. That's why you have the windscreen, P's, B's, and S's. Most of the time, when I see people using a Shure SM7B, like Michael Huff from the FF Face Off, what they do is this. He would always talk into the side of it, and then he would wonder why you can't hear him because you're using your microphone wrong. If you do not want to look at a microphone, you don't want to see a microphone in front of your face, get a condenser mic. Look at the Behringer Euphoria setup from Sweetwater. It's like $109. Comes with a Behringer, what is it, the U48 interface, which is not the one that you have, but it's the interface that Porkman and Chev have and Nate has as well. And it comes with a condenser mic and a cable and a shock mount. That's great. And Behringer makes really good stuff. Look into Behringer stuff if you want to be a beginning podcaster, because it's very inexpensive, extremely sturdy, and the sound quality is fantastic. Guys actually use it on stage for performances too. So there you go. Some beginner podcasting tips, things I wish I knew when I started.
Man, I think I just learned more about mics than I've ever known about mics in my life.
I
So
know a little bit.
yeah, I could tell. I mean, the fact that you can just rip off,
Well, the thing
X
is,
mic at the top of your head.
I have to know this stuff because I'm putting out something that's audio. And I mean, if you look over, I mean, I'm not going to move my I got a bunch of boxes. Like I have the boxes that like your microphone came in. Like I have it. If you ever buy your own microphone and you send me that back, then I have that box and then I sell the microphone and put it back in the bot account. But I have like, I mean, I got a bunch of stuff over there. Some of it's trial and error. Like I have a 3 microphone set of a Behringer XM 1800S's, which is like a little bit of a brighter version of what you use now. But I'm going to take those when we go to Canton, the Fantasy Football Expo. And I have a mixer, a 4-person mixer, and then I have a little bit of a better microphone for myself because I'm the host. I get the better mic. I have a Shure SM48. But like I just feel like those would be good in that setting. Like I upgraded Pork's microphone because his was a little dark. I feel like he's got a deeper baritone voice. So I wanted to upgrade his mic to something a little brighter, a little clearer. I got him an SM48. Got it. eBay is great too. eBay is a great place to find used audio equipment. If you don't want to buy new, you don't want to invest a lot. If you have any questions, say, should I buy this? And I'll say yes or no. And you don't have to buy a Scarlett 2i2 as an audio interface too. They're expensive. They're great, but they're expensive. I'll find you something better. Promise.
Alrighty. And then the last thing I want to ask before we get out of here, what is the main purpose? What is the drive? What is the driving force? What do you want the Dynasty Rewind to be to fans, to listeners, to other content creators? What do you want it to be as a model for, like I said, other content creators, or as a source of information to players of fantasy football?
So ideally, I would love to be the dynasty version of the fantasy footballers. Realistically, I just want to be someone that you like our podcast because you think it's fun, you think it's informative, you like us, you like our personalities. I want to be, I know I've come to accept that I'm not going to be Andy Holloway. You know what I mean? It's just not going to happen. But I want to be when you see our podcast pop up on your phone, you smile and you're happy and you're like, great, there's a new Dynasty Rewind. You see a new YouTube video drop, you're happy about it. You see a new Patreon episode drop, you're happy about it. We really do try our best to give you the best knowledge that we can, and we're all pretty honest about it too. I try to tell everybody don't speak in definites because there is no definites in anything, essentially. But tell people how you feel. When you're talking about feelings, you can't be wrong. Although my wife says I can't feel certain ways about certain things, which isn't fair because she's a fucking counselor. I always tell her feelings can't be wrong. I say a lot of times too, what you need to think about when you're creating content. There's another tip I want to give people. And this you can apply this to life too. Sometimes it's not about what you say, but how you say it. For example, you hear me out. Kenny Galladay will be a wide receiver 1 this year. Now, this is just an example. Or I feel that Kenny Galladay could be a wide receiver 1 this year. which one is going to give you more backlash?
The first one.
Exactly. So you could say the same thing, but just word it differently, and you look much smarter. You know what I mean? And you also have to pick a time and place where you put your takes. TAKES, not TAEKS. Irritates the shit out of me. Just like seasons, not SCN. Seriously, learn how to type, people. I don't tweet a lot about fantasy because I don't want to do this all day. You know what I mean? I don't want to be back and forth with people. I got a job, I got a family. So pick your time, pick your place. But really, what I want to do is I just want to grow within the community. I want to make people happy. I want to help people win some championships. I want to make people smile. I want to make friends. I know I always bitch about group chats. I actually do like talking to people. I just like one-on-one conversations better because in group chats you get kind of lost. And it's easy to lose your place. It's easy to lose your way, easy to lose your identity.
All
So
right. So with all that said, I think last thing as we head out, let the people know where they can find you on Twitter. I know you like to give out your email because you're an old man like that. But where they can find you for all their questions on starting a podcast, even I know you're fine with answering fantasy questions too. So where can they find you for all that?
sure, you can hit me up on Twitter at Rewind CEO. And if you ever want to email the podcast account, I'll give that up because Bob has access to that too. He can handle everything. It's dynastyrewind at gmail.com, patreon.com/dynasty rewind. 2 tiers. $1 tier gets you the awesome group chat. The $5 tier gets you everything else: group chat, written content, bonus podcasts, which we are about to record. And Bob, if I may say, thank you to everyone for watching our one-on-one series. It's been fun. This is our last one of the year. We're going to just kind of do things a little bit differently. It'll be back next summer when there's a little bit less content. I think we kind of flooded the whole scene there doing rookie breakdowns, Patreon shows, and the one-on-one series. So I think we're going to do it next summer when there's a little bit less going on. We're going to have some great guests back for everybody. So Bob, thank you for sitting down with me. I appreciate it.
No problem. Happy to. This was a blast. Like I said, I was honored when you asked me. I know it was really only between me and Sean, so whatever. I'm still honored that you asked me and that I was able to do it. But if you want to follow me on Twitter for anything IDP, anything fantasy, whatever the case is, you can follow me at BobVan_IDP. DMs are always open. I'm not afraid to, blow up my DMs. I don't care. Start sits. Who do you like as a sleeper linebacker this year? Whatever the case is. But other than that, like Mike said, that is our season finale of our one-on-one series. Thank you all so much for watching. Please check out our other one-on-one series videos. And we're heading out. Y'all have a good one.